Hey everybody, welcome back to another 4th Age Total War video. This is Countdown VHS, and today we're going to be talking about the city kingdom of Tharbad. This is one of the factions that is sort of added to the lore by this mod. And to back up a little bit, this is a mod for Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion, the original. I'll have a link in the description if you're unfamiliar with it. But Tharbad is one of the factions that has sort of been added to flesh out how the developers imagined Middle-earth to develop in the aftermath of the War of the Ring. So this takes place several hundred years after the War of the Ring. We're in the 4th Age, of course, and things have changed. You've got some old standbys, of course. You've got the Reunited Kingdom. You've got the Kingdom of Dale, which has been imagined to expand quite a bit. And you've got familiar groups of people, at least, like the Bjornings and the Woodmen, which in this mod have their own faction in the Greenwood. But you also have some factions like the City Kingdom of Tharbad. And in the lore, we don't know too much about exactly how Tharbad developed or was resettled after the War of the Ring, but we can make some pretty good inferences. And here they have been imagined to have been resettled by a mix of people from the surrounding areas. We've got sort of men native to the region of Arnor or Oriador. We've got Dunlandings, we've got Rohirrim, who could have potentially moved into this area to resettle it. And then, of course, you've also got the settlers from Gondor, who would have moved northwards after the crowning, the return of the king, right, the crowning of Elessar, to resettle what had been a presumably fairly important area between the North Kingdom and the South Kingdom in the 3rd Age. But in the 4th Age, there's this civil war happening. This has been hinted at in the short story The New Shadow, which Tolkien began but never finished, which suggested that a dark cult would arise to just cause further problems, essentially. Sort of a new shadow cult. And in this mod, that shadow cult is largely represented by the Kingdom of Adunabar, which is imagined as a breakaway from the Reunited Kingdom. So in this mod, Adunabar begins with a pretty substantial presence in the north, the eastern portions of Arnor, as well as the southern portions, mostly Mordor and the lower Anduin Valley. So we've got a civil war happening between the good guys and the bad guys, Ways of the West and the Ways of the Shadow, and in between them, we do have a third Dunedainic faction with a lot of other cultural influences. This is the City Kingdom of Tharbad. Now, in a recent tier list for the 4th Age Total War factions, I put Tharbad down at the bottom, along with other old standbys of what I consider to be fairly difficult factions, like the Principality of Far Harad, the Chiefdom of North Rune, the Kingdom of Rovanion. These are all fairly challenging factions, and I put Tharbad down there with them. Now, on the one hand, maybe that makes a lot of sense because this is a small faction. They start off relatively weak. But I've got a few other people in the comments there and also just in discussions on the 4th Age Discord suggesting that maybe I am mistaken here, that Tharbad is actually easier than I've been putting them out to be. So I have found this sort of an interesting conversation. I know that some of you have asked me to do a Tharbad Let's Play, and this video is the beginning of that. Tharbad is a faction that, just full disclosure, has never been my favorite in the mod. And I think it's down to their military style. It just doesn't mesh with what I'm used to or what I tend to favor, which is cavalry or a lot of weird units. Tharbad has some very strong units. As you can see, the unit here that is representative of the faction in some ways is a very strong longbow unit. It's very similar to the King's Longbowmen, or that you can find in the Reunited Kingdom and in Adunabar. They have a different version of this. And this is just a really solid unit. They've also got a good tradition of well-armed infantry. They've got some mariner infantry that can be very strong. But all of those units, I like the weird stuff, right? Like, I like Mumakil. I like, inefficient chariots. I tend to prefer barbarian factions for whatever reason. So Tharbad seems like a Dunedainic faction with some other low-tier stuff as flavor, and it's never really captured my imagination. But in a discussion with the lead developer for the last few iterations of the 4th Age Total War, Webba84, he's always had a soft spot for Tharbad. He's always really been in favor of the minor factions, and I remember as we were developing the mod, he argued strongly for fleshing them out further. And in some cases, we were able to do that, to at least give them some advantages compared to how they were previously. But so he really likes Tharbad, and he's pointed out to me, here's how he would approach the faction. So what I want this video to be, this is kind of a theory crafting video. We're not going to get too far into the campaign here, as you can probably tell. We've been going for 5 minutes, haven't clicked start yet. But I like these videos in the beginning to be just, a little slower paced. How are we doing? How are we looking at the campaign to come? So I hope you're in the mood for that sort of thing. If not, feel free to just skip ahead to the second video once we get that out there. But let's just take a brief look here. We've got the campaign difficulty set to the recommended decidedly Tookish. That is equivalent to medium difficulty. I think this is a very important selection. This is how I play all my Rome Total War campaigns, essentially. Medium difficulty allows diplomacy to be somewhat useful, and it's a lot of fun to play that way. You've got to play with some restraint, but this can allow you to have peace with certain factions, which seems to me more realistic and fun than just a state of constant grinding war. I know these are Total War games, but a big part of the draw for me is the role play. And, Middle-earth saw these long periods of stalemates, but also periods of certain peace between some factions. So we're going to keep that. We're also going to keep the recommended battle difficulty, bull roaring. That's just what I'm used to. This is essentially hard. And this is the difficulty factor for this faction is indicated as bull roaring. That just means we estimated they're harder than the normal faction, but not super hard. So that's that. Let's just start the campaign here. We're also got a large unit size, which is the standard and recommended version. Although if you're interested in playing huge unit size, Webba has put together a patch for that, so you can have the massive battles that you want. But yeah, what I'd like to do here is get a sense for Tharbad's starting position, and we'll also maybe talk a bit about some of the pitfalls. All right, I mentioned that in the tier list video, and I believe I've mentioned it also in my guide for Tharbad. I have played this faction occasionally, but as it's not been my favorite, I haven't spent a ton of time there. And those pitfalls involve doing what you would normally do in a Rome Total War game or mod, and that is essentially attacking your rebel neighbors first, and trying to get peace and trade and everything with everybody else. I'm going to skip this. We've got a lot to get into here, so we're just going to, if you want to pause and read the intro text here, you certainly can. I do love these little videos though. But yeah, we'll just click resume campaign. This gives you a hint. So Tharbad does get the ballistas. It gets some militia type units, although it has to be said these are low tier for the other Dunedainic factions, but they're a somewhat higher tier for us, for Tharbad. So let's start with just a look at what we have. And we've got a decent representation initially. We do have some of the higher tier stuff. City Longbowmen. This is, to me, this is like, one of the signature Tharbad units. Of course, it appears on the faction selection screen. But this is really good. 51 men, so not a ton. There are some archer units out there in the world that have, I think, 90 men or so. And so the danger is that archers are good at any level. And having, twice as many archers as yours is never a good thing. So you do want to be somewhat careful when coming up against numerous low-tier archers. Your longbowmen can still be vulnerable to them. So you want to make sure you don't do that. You don't just stand around and get shot. That can be tricky with Tharbad, though, because a lot of their military, as we can see here, really is infantry. So how do you prevent getting shot? One way is by using cav. The merchant scout unit is the only cav that you get for quite a while until you expand. But natively, yeah, this is it. In your homelands, you get merchant scouts and nothing else. And this is essentially the tier 1 Rohan cav. I believe they have no shield. They've got spears, which is a good thing. Their charge is going to be decent. So 18 charge, 13 attack. You add that together if they're charging, so that's decent. They've got a 16 defense, so they're not going to be, certainly the most robust unit. And in my experience, they tend to take quite a few losses when they do make a charge. Now, we could throw a bunch of these guys together and just lob them at a single unit, and they'd probably win, almost regardless of what that unit happens to be, if we hit them from multiple sides at once. But that doesn't seem like the lore-friendly way to play Tharbad, so I think I'll be restraining myself from doing that. Also, the upkeep's a little high to do that. There are cheaper light cav out there if you want to do mass cav tactics, and other factions for whom it seems to make more sense. 53 men, though, in a unit is pretty good. So I know that these guys have been trashed on by players for many years, but they're not as bad, I think, as they're sometimes made out to be, as long as you are just aware that they're going to take losses, and so you will have to retrain them. And you also want to use them carefully, right? They are not built for like a headlong charge. If you've only got a few units, then you've got to be using them for very specialized tasks. Okay, so that's what we've got there. We also have Tharbad Pikemen. This is another very interesting unit. Defense of 35, so this is one of the higher end of like the mid-tier units, I guess I would say. This is inspired by Dunland's pike units, so it's an interesting idea that the Tharbad is really a melting pot of the different surrounding civilizations. So their attack is fairly low, but bonus fighting riders, which is going to be, handy, obviously. These guys can be a little bit tricky to implement alongside other units because they tend to fall out of formation. That's just a quirk with how pikemen are represented in the game. It's fine. Not a huge deal. Probably my favorite unit just for the aesthetic, and maybe it's just for this unit card even. I just like the pose of this guy. He seems like a Chad. I don't know. There's something very cool about them. All they've got is like a little cap. They've got a shield. They've got an axe. That's it. No abilities. I love that. For some reason, I'm really drawn to that. There are 80 men here, so this is the almost the most men per unit that you're going to get, outdone only by the Tharbad Militia. Another great design, model-wise here. But I like the Axemen of Tharbad. No other unit in the game is quite like this. I think there are Eriador Axemen that are essentially this unit, but no other faction really gets a native unit quite like this. So it seems to me like a Tharbad specialty. These are like the local dudes, like from around Eriador. And those units are not something that you see very much in the mod. So it's cool that there's a faction that's almost dedicated to them. I think these guys are tier 2. But the upkeep is pretty high, 270. 270. I mean, that's even higher than the Tharbad Pikemen, 250. So I think the Axemen of Tharbad, I really like them. I think the problem for me is I tend to use them maybe too much and rely on them too much. Against a single unit of almost any Dunlandings that are made for melee, this unit's going to really suffer because their defense is not good enough to protect them from the javelins and the war cry. So if you've got like even tribal spearmen, I think that's 100 men per unit, something like that. So they're going to outnumber the axemen. They're going to get to throw spears. I think they get 2, and that's going to thin out our numbers even more. I don't think the tribal spears get a war cry. Could be wrong about that, but it almost doesn't matter. They're going to, if they can throw their javelins, then they're going to do a lot of damage. And then you even take into account, like, okay, that's a tier 1 Dunlanding unit. What about the tier 2? They get axemen who do have a war cry, who also have javelins, and these guys are all of a sudden looking pretty bad. So I think the key is don't get charged, right? Don't allow the Dunlandings to throw their javelins. And that's just hard to do. Okay, what else do we have here? An awesome unit here, Mariner Swordsman, 300 upkeep. Not much more than the Axemen of Tharbad, really. Quite a few fewer men, 60 men per unit, but now we get some javelins for a change. So 20 missile attack is pretty nice. Melee attack of 15, defense of 30, that's pretty good. Not as good as the pikemen. But these guys are sort of like your specialist commandos almost. They can actually do a shield wall. I forgot about that. That's awesome. Okay, great. So reasonable morale is also good. They can swim, which is neat. Can the axemen swim? No, they can't. They can't do anything. The axemen can do absolutely nothing. That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, the Mariners. Mariners are an awesome unit. I think they're tier 3. But we can't make a whole line of these guys, I don't think. And what else do we have? Spears of the Bridge. Okay, so this is essentially the Gondor militia or the Adunabar militia that the other Dúnedainic factions can train. The difference is these guys are not at tier 1 like those units are. They're at like tier 2. And so this means that you're just a step behind. At your tier 1, you're going to get Tharbad militia. So just to compare the stats here, these guys have an attack of 10, defense of 22 versus 1227, right? So a bit of an advantage there. These guys are quite a bit cheaper and quite a few more men, 90. So you know it's worth it to have some of these. These are going to be your garrison troops essentially. All right, the one unit that we don't have here, and the one unit that Webba told me, we had a discussion on the Discord. I can tell he loves Tharbad because I pointed out how I play them or how I don't play them very well, and he just gives me paragraphs of like here's what you want to do, and this is the unit that he loves. So Mariner Bowman, and here's what I'm noticing about these guys right now. 100 upkeep is actually amazing. That's very, very low. Yes, there's 51 soldiers, so that's also low. But this is the lowest upkeep of any unit that you can train, I guess, right? Because what were these Tharbad militia? That's 160. Yeah, it's 90 men. But 100 is awesome. So, he was saying in his army compositions, and then this is from the dev, right? So don't even take it from me, because this is the guy who's like, helping design the rosters and putting the units together and doing the stats. He knows this stuff better than I do in terms of the mechanics and how it all works. And so he was saying like, 8 or 9 units of these in an early army. You fill out the rest with like a few of these, lower tier guys, and a couple of cav, a couple of bodyguards, but really it's your Mariner Bowmen who are keeping the Dunlendings at bay. And so that's what I want to try to do in this playthrough. Typically, so let's actually remove the Fog of War. I don't play like this. Here I am playing like this, but I want to sort of give a sense of I guess my philosophy, right, behind this faction. So I know to our south we've got Dunland, right? Like, so this is a problem, right? Dunland is a faction that can outproduce us. Not so much in terms of the number of settlements, although they do start off with quite a few, but in terms of their population and their unit size. Just the men per unit is a big problem for us, because as you can see, we can do really good to get 80 men in a unit, but we're going to lose a lot of them to those javelins. So Dunland is a huge threat, and we've got this Greyholm settlement, which is the only border that they have. They're not going to go for anything else. I mean, they're going to go for Lund there, but they're not going to go for these, like the Tharbad itself, until they first get Greyholm. That's just the way the borders are, so the AI is going to focus on the adjacent settlements first. Greyholm is not at the best level of development. It's an urban province, but we've got a little bit of work to do, because you can see all we can train here right now is Tharbad militia, and the population is low. So 1,200 men per unit means if we just start training, we're going to be depleting it, really fast, and we don't want to do that, because we want to keep the population for their tax base, as well as for, the ability to train further units down the line. So we don't want to waste all of our guys training Tharbad militia, but we don't have any of their options out of here. So I think what we want to do first is get to the mustering fields, and this is where we're going to get those Mariner Bowmen. So this is tier 2, and this is where we want to start cranking out Mariner Bowmen. Only 50 men per unit, so that's not going to be that much of an impact on our population versus if we were to go crazy with Axemen of Tharbad, right? Or Spears of the Bridge even. That's 60. Tharbad Militia is 90. So let's hold off Greyholm for a Mariner Bowman training program. Now, does that make sense? Like roleplay wise, they don't really have a port, but they do have a fishing village, and I'm going to do it anyway. I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to earmark this for Mariner Bowman, and maybe we're going to train him out of Tharbad too, because we can train Mariner Bowman here like immediately. Tharbad itself only has 1,700, so this is our best settlement, but it's only got 1,700. What's Londaire? 1,000. This is the worst. These other two settlements, by the way, are just forts. These are permanent fortresses that cannot be developed very far. You can do a little bit, and you really should, because this is going to increase the population growth, thus the income, and also allow you to train some very basic like garrison style units. I think all we're going to get is the Tharbad militia, but let's see. Let's just queue these up immediately. That's only going to cost us 500. What's our income looking like? Okay, 1,300. That's right now. Now, as soon as we click end turn, that's going to change. Stuff's going to, come into effect. But let's get those queued up immediately. And let's see. My economic program is typically very conservative, right? Like I tend to always want to spend under my projected income. So if I were to do that, I've already spent almost all of that money, right? Because I just spent 1,000. And I'm only projected to make 300 more on top of that. But I think in the first few turns you want to go a little more. You want to go a little higher. So let's see. I do want to make sure that Greyholm can at least train Mariner Bowman or retrain them, so we don't have to keep shuttling back to Tharbad. So let's spend 5,000 on mustering fields. Actually, do we want to wait for this guy to get his traits? I mean, he's not awesome. 3% increase to construction costs versus 5% decrease. So he's going to get a slight boost. If we hang around and let him get the attuned governor trait, we let him get the title to the city. That's going to take a turn or two, and then he's going to, by waiting in the city for a little bit longer, he's going to become attuned to that settlement. That'll appear as a trait here, which will further, I believe that decreases construction costs by another 5 or 10%. It's just a good trait to get, but I don't know that we can afford to really wait. Let's just do this. This is going to take 3 seasons. Let's just do it now. And let's see. Yeah, look, maybe we want to spend like all of our money. This guy we might want to move. Freka. I remember this guy. He's sort of a Dunlanding. Oh, but he's really good this time. Expert governor and commander. Yeah, so he's a man of Dunlanding descent. One of the fun things about the mod, of course, is the trait system, which indicates the subcultures and sub-factions of all your family members. And rather than, seeing all of your characters as members of a single family, you have to recognize that they are actually several different families, right? So all we're seeing here is the ruling family. This is the faction leader and his immediate heirs. These guys, the Merchant King of Tharbad here, Camlost, is a man of Gondorian descent. This is a subculture that's represented people coming up from Gondor up to Tharbad to resettle. They are good builders, so that's a 5%. They are good tax collectors, but people don't like them so much because they are good tax collectors. So his son is also going to be a man of Gondorian descent from the House of Targon, which is cool. So Targon, I believe, is an attested Gondorian lord from Western Gondor, and that's the area of Western Gondor is sort of the region you might expect maybe from these guys to move up once Dunland was subdued, right after the War of the Ring. Rohan sort of expanded, and you could imagine that the people from Western Gondor might be interested to head up here. Okay, so that's that family, but this family is the Dunlandings. He is the House of Wolf. Yes, House of the Wolf. So this is like a sort of a tribe or a house, and this interacts with various other traits to determine how well he thinks of the faction leader. It's probably not going to be good because he's from a completely different culture, completely different family. The opinion of Liege trait can be found here under the traits regarding their energy level and intelligence and charisma. Everyone in turn 1 is going to be supportive. When turn 2 comes around, this is going to change. All their traits are going to kick in, and this is probably going to go down, which is too bad. But he's good enough in his other areas that I think he's still going to be of benefit. Dunlandings, though, as a contrast to the Gondorian leaders, are good at ambushing, good at plundering, but not good at law. Now, that is not awesome. That's not a great trade. The plunder bonus, I believe, is pretty small. And ambushing is obviously kind of rare. Command bonus is nice, but it's somewhat of a rare occurrence. And the -2 to law can be a big deal. So these are guys we're going to want to use in the field. If we have a lot of House of the Wolf or Dunlendings in our family tree, they're going to at least provide the bodyguard units. So let's take a look at that now. This is something we haven't seen. Yes, so this is the Merchant Guard. 450 upkeep for each family member, and that'll fluctuate, of course. But 23 attack, 40 defense. 21 of that is armor, and they can do a shield wall when they are not the actual commander of the army, right? Because if only one of these guys exists in an army, and they're the commander of it, then they're going to have the horn, right? The rally button. That's going to be their only special ability. But if you've got two of them in an army, then the one who's not the commander can do the shield wall, which is quite a nice ability. So this is a strong unit, but again, the numbers are small and they are vulnerable to Dunlendings, right? In the sense that if you get around them, throw javelins in their backs or attack them with the anti-armor units that Dunlendings do have. They've got the mace men, they've got the axe guys, so there's all sorts of problems. So we got to, again, be careful. This army is really an interesting army to fight Dunedainic armies, I think, because you've got some quirky stuff. So it'll be interesting for us to go north. Okay, so we've sort of set up that. Let's just do one last thing here. Let's decide what do we want to do in Tharbad. This guy's not great. He's a poor governor, and he's unintelligent. Jeez, he's seasoned as well. So maybe we don't want him around very long. Let's see. His son, is this his heir? Yeah, Iorlas. He's a competent governor, so we'll keep him right where he is. So maybe we do want to send you north to fight. 52 men. You're not doing us a lot of good in the settlement. Let's actually get you out of here because I think that's going to increase the cost. So 495. If we get him out of here, what is that going to be? 5. Okay, he's actually giving a slight bonus. So let's queue up building stuff. I don't know if it works that way. If we queue it up and then take him out of the settlement in this turn, if he's going to still benefit from that. Do we want to go libraries? Probably not. It's only going to cost us upkeep, right? This is going to go away, and the law bonus doesn't matter because it's a heartland. This is our capital, right? So I guess that was the other thing I wanted to say about the Dunlendings. You know, the law penalty of being a Dunlending descent is a problem once you start conquering outside of your core lands, right? But in your homelands, -2 to law doesn't really matter because, there's a little mismanagement, but it's not going to be as bad as it is once you get outside. So we're just going to want to keep them kind of close to us and then otherwise use them as fighters. Okay. So what do we want to build here then? You know, in terms of resources in Tharbad, this is an interesting province, Eastern Cardland. It goes all the way down here. We've got fish and we've got timber, and I think that's it. For what we have for exploitable resources, which means that our industry buildings could go either for fishing or it could go for timber, which is going to cut down construction costs. Libraries are necessary because they do provide ballistas, and then at a higher level they do a sort of faction-wide income bonus or law bonus, I believe. So that's awesome eventually, but I don't know that I want to spring for it right now. I don't think we can afford the Lord's Barracks at the moment. What's that going to give us? The Longbowmen, I guess? Yeah, because we've already got the Merchant Scouts. We've got the Pikemen. We've got everybody else here that we can train. The only thing we don't have is City Longbowmen and family members, the Merchant Guard. So, that's okay. We'll get that eventually. Let's go with a construction charter, right? Like, eventually we're going to want that. And let's take all of you guys out of here. Let's leave a militia. And then, yeah, we're going to, everything but a single militia unit. We're going to go for 3 ways immediately. So, let's take you. What do we have for other archer types? I think we want to put another archer down here. And this is going to have to hold. I'm a little concerned about this. And we'll take Fog of War off. I just wanted to take Fog of War. We're going to put it back on, but I wanted to take it off temporarily to show you the geopolitical situation, and then I'll sort of turn it back on. But yes, so what I'm thinking about, though, is the fact that that we've got Dunland immediately to our south. And I can't remember how the scripts work in the beginning for the Tharbad campaign, if Dunland is poised to do really well or if Rohan is going to do very well. I would almost rather that Dunland does well initially because I'm concerned about Rohan. Rohan is a very awkward faction to fight. They can get very strong and they can make really good armies. So I'd rather not deal with Rohan, even though we do have some tools to help us in that regard. Rather fight Dunland. And then in the north, here's what Webba was suggesting. 3 ways. 3 ways is the first one you want to hit. The reason is this pretty isolated from the rest of Adunamar's provinces. You hit that, and this gives you control of your entire north, right? It sort of is the only province you have to hold up here in terms of bordering. And all the other provinces nearby, you can take at your leisure. Like, no one is ever going to go for Sarnford if you have 3 ways. Unless someone is conquering the Shire, but that takes a very long time typically. So you can just go for 3 ways and then kind of at your leisure get these other places, Sarnford, Ridmallen, Etherbarain, Vornhallen. You can get all of this stuff, get Cardolan and Minhiriath under your belt, and then you can kind of trade with everything. Now, these provinces, what I was saying initially is that this is the trap, right? Like, you go for someplace like Swanfleet because it's right there and it's rebel and it's easy. There's no walls. The army's not too big. You could take it. And yeah, you could, but what are you going to do with it? You've got to build it up. You've got to, there's no plunder to be had here, right? The population's pretty low. And you've just weakened yourself, and Dunland is going to recognize that, or Adunabar is going to recognize that. So basically, you've got to make a move initially. So to that end, I'm going to grab some mercenary bowmen of Rhydor. This is quite a steal, in my opinion. Upkeep of only 90. This is lower than our Mariner bowmen. 50 men, so about the same numbers. And missile attack is not as good. What is there? 16. Actually, no, it's a little bit better. So we will get these pretty much every single time we can. I don't think I'm going to go for riders, though. 400 is a bit high for what we can afford at the moment. But we will just go right ahead, get you up here, and we're going to be poised to attack 3 ways pretty soon. Now, this is, could be a little bit of an awkward army. They've got a bunch of cav. They've got a couple of dark bows, which is really a big danger. The Grim Spears I'm not too worried about. But we'll see. That's the idea. In the north, though, the issue is you've got these 2 Dunedainic factions, right? With basically the Reunited Kingdom clustered towards the west, but looking pretty weak, and Adunabar blobbed out over in the east, but looking fairly strong. Now, in practice, it does take a little while before one of them gets the obvious upper hand, because they're going to be wasting a little bit of time around Fornost. Typically, this Adunabar army is going to take Fornost, but be kind of weak, and the Reunited Kingdom may be able to build up and take it, or at least challenge them for it. So you've got a little bit of time, but I think 3 ways immediately, and here's where the strategy for Webba really diverged from my own personality. He suggests, well, let me just say what I would suggest. I would say, okay, I took 3 ways. Now I know that this is safe and no one's going to take these, so I don't even need them. I'm going to keep trading with these neutral rebels, because notice, these guys are not at war with us. So I'm just going to trade with them, right? Like, what's the difference? And I'm going to go for Bree, because I know this can get rich. This is one of the only settlements on the map with pipeweed as a resource. I think the other one is right over here. Right, is it Bucklebury? No, it's South Farthing. So it's pipeweed, or it's the Shire, right? This is the other place with pipeweed. So pipeweed is a good resource to get for trade. You can build some unique industry buildings up here. And this is a nice little location. So my inclination, we'll see if I can resist this temptation, would be to take 3 ways, and then as soon as I can to take Bree. And I think this is how I typically play Tharbad, and then get into trouble, because what happens is either I'm attacking the Reunited Kingdom, or I'm attacking Adunabar, but in either case, I typically don't wait until the Reunited Kingdom is gone. And so if I help them by taking this from Adunabar, typically the Reunited Kingdom will pay you back by attacking you, right? They want Bree. Both of these factions want Bree. So if you take it, you got to be, I guess, prepared for some trouble to come. And Adunabar has some big armies. Like, they've got, look at that, a couple full stacks just hanging out up in the north. So this is a bit of a challenge, because initially Adunabar may look like, okay, they take Fornost, maybe they take Bree, but then they move on, and so you see a small garrison here maybe. The problem is they're not that weak. They're not as weak as you think. They've got a decent army over here, maybe another full stack hiding in the woods, I can't remember. And they're going to bring that to bear to you sooner or later. So you do want to take 3 ways early, but then you got to build. That's what Webbe is saying. The other thing he actually recommended is taking these rebel settlements once you've kind of got 3 ways under your belt, because, and I think there's a good point to this. It's like, yes, you lose out on the trade from trading with all these neutral settlements, but you can also build them up. And this one in particular trades with Mickle Delving, Mithlond, so the Shire and the Elves, and the Dwarves. I did not take that into consideration. So what I would typically do, again, is I would leave rebel provinces, because other factions, the rebels are passive, right? They're not going to attack you for the most part. And other factions aren't going to attack these, so they're safe. I don't need to race anybody for Sarnford, so I thought, okay, Sarnford, forget about it, take Bree, this is where the threats are going to come from. I think, in a way, strategically, that makes sense, but why not take advantage of this, right? Because you'd rather have a stronger economy if you're going to go to war up here, right, than a weaker economy, I think is the idea. So get Sarnford and start making a lot of money. Now, there's not a lot of trade resources here. I think the only one is livestock. But this is a good one, right? You've got 3 trade partners. You can access all of them, start building roads eventually. And although the population is low here, you don't need to train a ton of guys. Get up to tier 2 military and train some archers, right? Every few turns to replenish. Okay, so that's what we're going to do there. We're going to prioritize Sarnford as our first rebel settlement. Probably not worry too much about like Ridmallen for a little while. Swanfleet for a little while. Now this can be tricky because Dunland, although they don't technically like border it in the sense that they can't get here without trespassing, is what I'm trying to say. They do border the province, though, of Western Holland, and so I do sometimes see them trying to get it. And Adunabar is going to come down and try to get this, and that can be very dangerous for us. So we may need to go for Swanfleet, but that's nice because it allows us to take Austeneville, which has gems, right? So that's a thought there. In the south, the other thing Webbe is reminding me of is you can take Dunland, right? You've got a bunch of archers. You out-archer them. Be a Dunedain, right? Don't think like a barbarian or think like a cavalry faction, because I'm not. So I got to train archers. And I don't know why I don't like to train armies with too many archers. I think it's because I have this mistaken idea that it's somehow unhistorical, but I have to remind myself that, like, in the 100 Years' War, archers were a significant proportion of the English armies, or really I think any army. Eventually, once anyone figures out how cost-effective it is to have projectile units in an army, they train as many of them as they can practically, because you can stand off and kill the other guy. So I don't know why I have this thing about wanting to train melee people as opposed to ranged people, but yeah, train half of your stack archers. I'm going to have to try to remember that. Okay, and then with that, if I can keep an eye on things down here, see how Dunland's doing, maybe I can choose the moment that I attack them, because they are going to be at war with Rohan. They are initially, in fact, at war with Rohan and the Reunited Kingdom, right? So they've got some issues there. Now, they may come in to attack me as soon as I attack their ally Adunabar, but I guess we'll have to see, right? That'll be part of the fun. The other thing that I want to maybe experiment with in this campaign, because here's what Webbe suggests, right? Go up, take Tharbad, take 3 ways, take Sarnford, build, take the rebel settlements. But meanwhile, you can also move down south, right? Take Dunland, because this is going to be good, actually. The population of these places is going to be very high, and the development level is also going to be very high. So as long as you've got some good governors, those I think it's the Gondorian, man of Gondorian descent. That's going to be good for economically running a settlement. I don't think we have any of the other families yet, but we're going to get Man of Arnorian descent. Man of Arnor, that's going to have slightly different benefits. I think movement point benefits, maybe trade bonuses. But we don't have any like good law bonus subcultures available to take advantage of via our family members. But regardless, we can, as long as we can, manage these settlements with what we have, 1, 2, and then we're down within spitting distance of the Hornburg, right? And this is a huge deal, right? Obviously, we want to take Anghal and everything else, but between the rivers here, between the Eisen and the Grey Flood, this should all be ours. But we also, we want to look at the Hornburg as sort of the goal. Speaking of goals, what are our actual goals? Basically, we wanted to do a north-south road suggestion, right? Like, so the idea is your northernmost one that you have to get is Bree, and the southernmost one that you have to get is the outpost of Dol Baran. That's sort of the extremity of the north-south road, because you hear in Unfinished Tales of these very impressive roads and causeways and things that were built over the flatlands of Enedwaith up to and through Tharbad. And so the idea is by conquering these provinces, you can build roads and somewhat kind of control that traffic again. But we're going to go one step further and into the Hornburg, and then maybe, Edoras. But I think I want to make this my sort of stopping point, at least for a little while. And then, I would like to engage in a little Dunedainic adventurism. What I would love to do, I've never done this, is get down into Gondor and or Harondor/Umbar. Not exactly a migration campaign, because I'm not starting this off from the beginning, but there are some cool units you can get down here if you're playing as Tharbad. I think it's more up here. I think you can get some Harondor Riders, which is an interesting cavalry unit. You're much more likely to see them as the United Kingdom, because you can train them if you come down here. It's just easier. But we can get down here and take advantage of some of these units. There may even be some high-tier swordsmen, like men-at-arms, that we can get if we get like Minas Anor. I can't remember, but it would be fun to try. So I would like to carve out a nice secure realm for myself, right? Get that north-south traffic locked down, get up to Aglarond, get up to Bree, eventually, and then trade with all these guys, but then get a fleet going, and then see if we can take over what we can take over. All right, so with that, we're going to get rid of the Fog of War, and we do have a little bit of money left to spend, so we may as well spend it in Londir. Oof, we're going to be in the negatives, but you know what? I think we got to do it. Let's go for, let's see, this one, Construction Charter as well. This guy's actually got some nice bonuses, currently anyway. Let's go for the mustering fields. We have to get ready to build mariners. And I'm going to leave, yeah, I think we're going to go normal. We're actually going to go for low taxes, growth policy. This helps the opinion of the liege by putting taxes on low, by giving generals their own ability to sort of build things or set priorities. You can still actually set the priorities by unchecking these things, but putting it on local governance gives them a bit of a boost to their opinion of the liege. We're going to want low taxes here and here. This is going to help the authority of our king. And here, since there's no governor, we can just go for low taxes here. This is going to help our growth, not our income for a little while, but it will eventually kind of help our income too. Okay, so there's wars. Ways of the West is most popular, and this is just setting up the initial sort of alliances. Okay, so we do have an emissary here. I mean, we could try some jerky moves, like go ahead and try to sell trade rights or something like that from a Dunabar, but I don't think I want to do that just yet. Let's instead send our diplomat to the northwest. We do want to get trade rights with the Shire, elves, and dwarves, so we can start moving in that direction. Otherwise, though, we've got nothing going on. No enemies, no allies. We do have some ships. There's a bit of upkeep associated with them, but it's not too bad. I think I'll keep them all. We don't have any fleets down here, so what I'm going to do is let's keep the New Miramar up here, and I'm going to take the Palaran down south, and we're going to park them in the port here, so that they're going to essentially block off the Grey Flood, so no one can come up and sail through here. And we're going to put you in a port here just in case. We can use you to transport stuff. Should I train? Yeah, get training Mariner Bowman. And let's not train anything else just yet. Although we do have a scout. That might be a good idea. Let's do that. All right. So this is our one turn. We're almost, like, what is this? 45 minutes in. But that's all right. Okay. Suitable husband. Poor governor, poor commander, Gondorian descent. He only has the negative of that. He looks old to me. He's mature. And yeah, I'm going to say no. We can get somebody better. All right, so some new wars have kicked off. It's all predictable. We got our spy, and we got, one of our buildings done. We've got 4,000 in the bank, and we're making 166. That's okay for a little while. We are building some more building stuff, and yes, here we've got the farming. That's going to help things. Okay.
Noble master.
Do we have a scout anywhere? Whoops, 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 whoops. Not you. Not you. Hold on. We do have a scout who is in Londair. Right. And so what we could do, I think I want to keep him in the south, keeping an eye on Dunland. So let's get a view of these settlements. This will allow us to just check periodically to see if Dunland is conquered. This is kind of what we want to watch for. If they start conquering over here, that means they're probably ready to make a move. But I want the spy to be around here. And what else are we seeing? Okay, there's some movement of rebels. That's not actually empty. 2 more seasons for archers. Let's just keep bringing archers down. We've got 3 units, and let's go for 1 more. All right, that's 500. So we're going to go into the negatives. That's all right. I think we have to.
Awaiting your command, your honor.
All right, now we're by Sarnford. That's nice that we get eyes on it. I don't think there's any purpose in asking for trade rights just yet with the Shire because we don't border them, and so we can't get any money out of the deal. So we'll get up here, and in a little while, maybe after we take 3 ways, we will ask for that. We'll certainly ask for the Reunited Kingdom. We're also going to be heading up towards a Numinas, actually. So that'll be good to have an agent up here to see how the Fornost war is going. All right, so 3 ways. Yeah, might be nice to have a spy now up here, actually. Yeah, let's do 1 more. That's going to be even more money, but I think we have to do it. Now, why is 3 ways so good? Well, obviously, just strategically it's really good, but it also has this iron resource, and it's got livestock. What else? I think that's it. But that's really good. Iron is kind of rare around here. This is the only place near us that has it, and it's got some good industry buildings that can come out of it. So let's go ahead. Attack neutral faction. I probably should have done some diplomacy stuff first. Let's queue up the rams. And I think we want to get in here as soon as possible because, yeah, I don't want a big army to come and hit us, especially with all these cav. So let's do 1 more season. See what they're gonna do. Oh, and they're gonna hit us. All right, but that's their family member. Cav, heavy cav, Adunabar nobles, horsemen of the shades, versus that army that we just saw. Okay, let's do it. All right, there's the city in the distance of 3 ways, and the reinforcing army is coming from the left of it. Here's our family member here. All right, our faction leader, in fact, the merchant prince of Tharbad, Camlost of East Cardolan. So we're going to take back more of Cardolan, I guess. I think this is Cardolan 2, 3 ways. So we've got our city longbowmen as well, very nice armored units, and then the not armored mercenary bowmen, as well as our relatively unarmored mariner bowmen. Let's just get them all in a line, I think. So we've got 3 archers to their 2. Tharbad pikemen up on the front. Axemen in the front 2. I guess that's okay. Spears of the Bridge. Mariner swordsmen. They're already on fire at will. I guess we may as well do shield wall here. So this is okay. We've got like our spears sort of at the ends, so that the cavalry, we can, you know, rearrange to meet the cav. And then we'll use these guys to attack the cav also, because these are going to get a bonus against riders and large creatures, which is really actually helpful. So we talked about wanting to use these merchant scouts in very specialized formations. This is the specialized formation or situation that we're waiting for here to kill the bodyguards. So our merchant scouts are going to be kind of like, you know, the cav killers and the bodyguard killers. We do have some other things we can do to address that, such as our pikemen, but the our cav is just going to be faster at it. So I think that's what we're going to do. All right, we're already shooting. I know we've got the trees in the way here a little bit. We've got our general in reserve, and there's a lot of other guys coming here. There's those dark bows, a couple of units of cav. Now, it looks like they're bringing up everything. I thought they had a third cavalry unit. Oh, that's what this guy is. So it looks like they took the family member and one of their horsemen of the shades out of the city. So, alright, this is looking pretty good. If they don't charge my axemen, which doesn't look like they will, I should maybe hold back on the javelins, but I don't think so. Let's just use them. We're getting some friendly fire, sadly. I wouldn't have thought so with the slope, but yeah, I guess it makes sense. Alright, those horsemen of the shades are going to die. And here comes the Adunabar nobles. Where are they going? Going for the axes. Okay, they're charging the axes. Alright, we'll just receive that charge. Not too bad. Now we'll hit them with the pikes. Bring our cav around. The pikes are certainly going to tie him up and get some kills. Axemen are not doing too bad. I mean, that's the thing. And that reinforcing army is being a little slow. Alright, so they were at 19, now they're at 14, and they're shaken. We've got our cavalry all lined up. They're getting formed up. I want to wait for that because we need to get a charge. And let's see if this is a good one. Lower the lances. Yep. Nice. Alrighty, and there we go. See, that worked out very well. 53. We lost one guy. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And we still got 68. We lost 12 axemen of Tharbad, so not a bad trade, really. Let's see. Let's kind of group you guys, and we're going to get in the woods here, I think, because they've got archers. And I don't have a great answer to their archers. Because these dark bows are a really, really, really solid unit. Just really good armor. 61 is a decent unit size. Yeah, just archers in this mod in general are good in a hybrid capacity. They can be very useful in that way. All right, let's actually get my archers out. I'm a little concerned because there's a couple of cav units here, although one is way down here and the other is the general. So I think what we'll do is we will risk having our archers in the front line. I want them to target the dark bows. I think this is the most dangerous unit. We can survive a charge of Horsemen of the Shades, but we just can't afford to stand around and get shot. Alright, we're just going to have to let them decide what they're going to do. But yeah, you can see what I was talking about with the formations being a little weird. The pikemen are slightly just out of formation. But it's not the end of the world. Okay, they're not withdrawing. They're doing a massive outflanking maneuver with their other unit of cav. All right, so the question is, am I going to get impatient and move out to face this force? Because I think that would work okay. Are they doing anything? Okay, yeah, I'm going to get impatient. And the reason is, this is, I'm going to group them all up just for this purpose. Oh, jeez, never mind. Group again, try that. Nope, okay. Alright, so how about we get you out of the group? Yeah, sometimes you gotta do weird stuff like that. Okay. The reason is the AI is confused now, because we've killed the general of the first force. Sometimes they will do this, where they're like, what do we do, boss? So we'll just come out here, and we're not... Alright, we gotta be really careful here. Alright, I think... Yeah, okay, we still got a slight slope in our favor, but they've got more dark bows per man, per unit than we've got city longbowmen per unit, so... And their range is pretty good. Alright, 35. That guy's still not coming. Alright, this is okay. $2017. Alright, I'm gonna switch over. Great. We did take a lot of men for our city longbowmen. 12 men lost there. That's a bummer. Alright, let's take the army out again. Starting to snow, it looks like. Or sleet, anyway. Alright, so this is just one unit of cav over here and a couple of units of Grim Spears. This is now, I would say, not really much of a problem. Alright, we're hitting their cav. That's perfect. Alright, now we're not hitting it. Right, let's move up a little bit. Oh, no, we're not hitting them anymore. Oh, we ran out of bows. Ran out of arrows. Okay, completely ran out of arrows. So what are we at? 31. Okay, so all of you guys can come back here. Actually, I think we'll just send that group over. And the archers, I don't really want involved in the fight, but they might actually be somewhat useful as backup. Not in this fight, but in any other situation where you had like Grim Spears, especially. This is a low tier unit. Having city longbowmen fight these guys would be, you know, reasonable. If they've already used their arrows and you need a flanking unit, they're okay at that. All right. Now, I think, you know, Tharbad pikemen would probably be better to attack the Horsemen of the Shades. But let's get our Spears of the Bridge over there. Let's get our king down here. He may as well start fighting. Alright, Axemen of Tharbad. Tharbad pikemen. Merchant Prince. Mariner Swordsman. And let's bring the archers close because I don't want to lose them. Alright, there he goes. That's fine. We probably don't need to pursue him. Alright, so we've got a couple charges happening. Axemen of Tharbad, how are they going to do here? Nope, looks like we need to get the general. 83, losing badly. That's decent. Let's get our cav back. And that cav is just standing there, so we may have to go over and fight them too. Alright, let's actually get you guys out of shield wall so you can move faster. They're wavering. As soon as the cav appears back here, yeah. They're gone. I don't really want to charge those spears with my cavalry, even in the back. But what I should do, actually, is follow up. that. Let's actually put the shield wall together and hit them. And let's just walk the spearmen in that general direction. 6 men. Axeman Tharbad. Yep. Let's send him up. I should probably be doing a lot more fighting with the merchant prince because he's not going to be around forever anyway. But the Axemen are doing pretty well. Alright, let's just send everybody down here. A pretty elementary first battle, especially how the AI kind of gave up there right at the end. After we took out the first 2 cav units. When the AI has reinforcements like that, they're not at their best. Especially when, I think the Sally situations, maybe that's part of it too. Alright, they're moving now. Again, I'm glad I've got my cavalry nearby because that's going to be the decisive arm of this. Alright, I probably shouldn't have brought him out so fast. I don't want my cav to get charged. Alright, so they're charging my spears. They're not going to do anything to those spears. Let's get down here. I know we're going to charge like slightly uphill. I don't think it matters all that much. They're wavering already. But the key thing is we want to, yeah, we want to avoid losses to this sole unit of cavalry, I think, in our entire force. But these guys are fast, you know, they're light, they're pretty cheap. It's not a bad unit. I mean, it is compared to the higher tier stuff and cavalry of other nations, but pretty good all in all. So with that, we should get 3 ways. And yes, it looks like we've captured it. Everything looks very happy. There are not many people here. Only 651 to be killed or cast out, so I don't want to do that. We'll just occupy. And let's see what we've inherited in 3 ways. Obviously, the population is going to be growing or decreasing even further because we don't have our own dominion established yet. In order to do that, we need to first destroy the dominion of our enemy. One other concern here is alignment. And with Tharbad, you do have this alignment problem that a lot of other factions don't necessarily have, at least so immediately. Because no matter what direction you go in, you're going to be fighting like non-Ways of the West factions. And your guys are going to be almost certainly Ways of the West. So your king is a patron of the West, in fact. I don't know if this Dunlanding is a Ways of the West or Darkness. Oh, we get another guy, too. That's right. Oh, he's a follower of Darkness. Okay, so that could be something to consider if you're going to be conquering Dunland, right? This is a Ways of Darkness region. So a lot of these cities would be more amenable in a way to having a governor like that. Whereas here, he's going to give us a slight penalty. This is a Ways of the West province, although it's not that big of a deal. It's like the governor's alignment differs only as 5%, so not the end of the world. But we do want to watch the fact that we've got 2 bodyguards here now just sitting there, taking up space, so we need to move him out. But 3 ways we can start destroying some things. However, Groves of the Shadow, this is the building that is keeping the city Ways of the Shadow Cult officially. Now, this building doesn't do anything for us, as you can see, but it does keep the building Ways of the Shadow Cult, or partly. If we are to destroy that and really work on flipping it to like Ways of the West, that could have big ramifications. Now, public order is already pretty decent, so we could probably survive that. you know, it might not be a bad idea. But let's do this. We'll get rid of Homeland Dominion. It's going to be 2,000, and we can start building our own. This is going to help our economy. We worry about conversion, you know, in a few turns. And we've got 3 ways. Let's see. Other wars, too far to be a problem. We've got another spy or another scout in Lonsdale. Let's get him going this way, actually. I want to find these cities. Yep, there they are. We don't know where Ridmalin is yet, but it's like here. So we'll get eyes on it and then move him up towards Fornost.
Can I be of service?
And now with 3 ways captured, we can head up to Anuminas, which is indicated by that blue banner there as a chief city, or city of renown. Let's see. Bree is neutral, and they've got an agent already to make deals for us as well. Let's go ahead and do some trade and see if we can get a bit of cash for it. Can you give us 1,000? All right, nice. What about an alliance for the same? All right, awesome. Okay, wasn't expecting that. So we can roleplay it as, you know, we are helping out our Dunedainic brethren, but we are maintaining our independence, right? We are maintaining our independence. So essentially, we must have led a revolt. Like, we have created a breakaway city-state down here. All right, but that makes me feel good anyway. We've got our... let's see what we've got. Yes, some lordships kicking in. That's nice. And we've got our buildings finished in the forts. This is going to give us a bit of money if we do this, but it's more expensive. So what is that? You know, 14 per turn. It costs 1,000. I'm probably going to wait. Made a little bit of money with the plunder. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. I think I'm going to move you over to the east. This is a little risky because there could be bad guys in the woods, but we're going to send you over here. Maybe to support Greyholm, because we don't have a lot of other agents there. But I'm happy to see this, that the Dunlendings are not massing at our borders just yet. And we can train some mercenaries. So let's do that along the way, too. Okay. We've got more bowmen. Let's go down here. It looks like this is a Dunlending agent. We do have to be aware of the potential for bribery of our settlements. They could be bribed away from us. So that's obviously a big problem. But we're going to call it there for the episode. That takes us about an hour in for this first one. So first steps in Tharbad, under our belt, 3 ways taken. And now we are poised to control Cardolan, right? And sort of gradually expand our rule over this area. And then see what Adunabar is going to do, because we have basically removed the salient from Adunabar's northern possessions. They start with this 3 ways, which again is very far from their centers of power, which is right around here. They've got Last Bridge here. They've got a couple of settlements here and here to the north of it. And they do have Rivendell. So this was the jutting out, the salient of Adunabar's expansion in the north. We've just removed it. Now they may be conquering Fornost at the moment. It looks like they are on Fornost's territory, perhaps. And they may move against Bree. So we'll see how our new alliance with the Reunited Kingdom works out and how our building goes in the next one. Hope to see you then.